The dice rattled across a chipped coffee table and stopped on a 6. That's how the night started. Noise, laughter, the safe chaos of a game you can understand if you read the rules twice. Lila sat across from me. Sharp eyes, easy smile, hair pulled back like she had better things to do, but chose to be here anyway. She organized the snacks by color. I noticed that. I also noticed the way she watched the score, the way she nudged the room toward order without wearing a whistle. I build structures for a living. I respect quiet control. We found a rhythm fast. I was 32, a senior structural engineer at Greenline Engineering, making a comfortable salary and happier in steel than in small talk. She handled corporate events, timelines, lists, the vibe. We traded texts, then dinners. Within 2 months, we were exclusive, not because of some dramatic confession, but because it felt like 2 gears settling into place. She told me she liked that I was stable. Translation, predictable. I took it as a compliment. That first year felt like a blueprint done right. We took a beach trip in late summer. She planned the itinerary. I planned the driving time and the fuel stops. I remember her hand on my arm when we watched the ocean fade into a clean line at sunset. She said the horizon made her feel calm. I cataloged that like a field note. Lila, comet edges. Isn't that how you keep a building standing? Find where it wants to move, then give it room. 14 months in, her lease expired. My 2-bedroom place had a silent room that pretended to be a guest bedroom, so we let it become ours. We split rent, utilities, groceries, subscriptions, even the annoying ones we forgot to cancel. She kept a spreadsheet. I built a shelving system in the closet that could outlive us both. We called it a modern, equal partnership, and for a long time it was. We were fair. We were neat. We liked hearing ourselves say it. I proposed at a lakeside arboretum just before sunset because some things really do look better in golden light. I had called Elaine, her mother, earlier that week. Elaine gave me permission the way a nurse might hand you a paper cup. Polite, necessary, no warmth wasted. I held out the ring anyway. Lila said yes like she'd been rehearsing it all her life. She flooded social media with photos and hashtags, and I did what engineers do. I ran numbers, guest counts, budgets, lead times on venues. The future came into view like a skyline. Cranes, glass, idea by idea. I won't pretend I didn't enjoy the attention. Colleagues shook my hand. Josh, my best friend, called me a grown-up for once. Lila glowed in those photos. Some nights I'd catch the reflection of us in the microwave door, her leaning into my shoulder, me holding a spatula like a trophy, and think, this is the right load, the right beams, the right bolts. How hard could love be if you plan it like a bridge? We built schedules. Saturday morning runs, Sunday groceries, weeknight meal prep that never got as fancy as the YouTube videos promised. She taught me to like charcuterie boards. I taught her that duct tape is not a long-term solution. We were a system. She'd say, my fiancé's an engineer, when she wanted a thing solved. I'd reply, my fiancé can persuade gravity, when a venue bent a policy for her. It was teamwork with punchlines. And yet, here's the part one didn't clock at the time. Lila loved beauty more than she loved calm. The first sign was small. When her friends hosted another game night, she spent half the evening fixing a centerpiece that didn't need fixing. She called it elevating the experience. I called it moving a vase. We laughed about it in the car. She kissed my cheek and said I made everything feel safe. Safe. The word landed like a steel plate on a wood table. Flat, heavy, a little too loud. I bought a guidebook to wedding planning and highlighted the ugly parts. Deposits, cancellation windows, force majeure. It wasn't romantic, but buildings don't stand on romance. She teased me for the tabs and thanked me for the organization in the same breath. At night, she'd scroll outfits and flower palettes while I looked at 3D models of beams interacting under wind load. 2 people, 2 screens, 1 couch. You could hear the soft hum of our lives sinking. When I asked about her mother's lukewarm blessing, Lila waved it off. Mom worries about everything, she said. She'll love you once we're married. I believed her because belief is easy when the numbers say go. And the numbers did. Good salaries, healthy savings, timelines that fit. I checked off a box next to approval. Pending. Then moved on to cake tastings where every forkful tasted like the same sugar wearing different masks. I couldn't taste doubt. Not yet. Looking back, I can see the shape of the story in the glass. My reflection steady, hers shimmering with unsaid things. But in that season, I slept the sleep of a man who thought he had solved it. Choose well, plan hard, execute clean. I told myself structures fail from neglect, not from design. If only that were true. We were 2 weeks from the wedding when the load finally shifted. But that's another scene, another night, and the quiet I didn't deserve yet. Tell me, would you have trusted the plan, too? Wine glasses clinked past midnight. Lila came home glowing and unsettled. Her friends were divorced like a medal and sold freedom with a refill. She asked if marriage kills passion or just hides it behind schedules. I said pretending kills it. She nodded. Her eyes didn't. Then came the forever house. She hunted listings at 1 a.m. I ran numbers. We landed a clean 3-bed bungalow near my office. About $360,000 with roughly $72,000 down. The mortgage felt like a handshake with the future and a set of cuffs. We painted greige, argued politely, and built weekends from receipts. She curated rooms that photographed well. I reinforced what would actually hold. Style had momentum. Physics had me. Her friends toasted the place and called it adulting. After they left, Lila stared at the sink and whispered, "Would this still feel good in 5 years?" I said feelings move, choices anchor them. She smiled thinly and organized the dishwasher like tree-off. Projects multiplied, shelves, pulls, backsplash. She nudged rugs to invisible axes. I floated removing a wall. She pivoted to pendant lights that made the room airier. She won more decisions. I told myself it didn't matter who picked the palette if the frame stood. That's how silence sells itself. Calm, reasonable, wrong. Elaine toured the house and called it nice, shrinking the word as she set it down. Lila acted unbothered. I logged it anyway. Approval, deferred. Input, irrelevant. On paper, we looked perfect. Nights got quieter. Houses talk, wood shifts, pipes breathe. Those noises never scared me. The silence after Lila's questions did. Was this a build or a disguise? Purchase or collateral? She stayed later at wine nights and slipped into bed smelling like citrus and Cabernet, eyes on the ceiling fan. Once she murmured that some people orbit, they don't land. I said we make our own gravity. The fan kept turning. Our living room became a command center. Binders, fabric swatches, handwritten place cards she insisted on for aesthetic perfection. Every name a promise. Planning calmed her, she said. I heard a hairline crack where joy should have been. I held the line anyway. Deposits paid, vendors confirmed, paint touched up where the ladder bit the wall. Doubt, I told myself, is weather, not climate. 2 weeks before the wedding, the weather ended. Lila sat on the edge of our bed, spine straight, eyes rimmed red. She asked if we could talk. My chest went quiet. The silence right before a structure releases energy you can't contain. Here's the thing about small creaks. They're warnings, not gossip. When one reaches your ear, do you ignore it or step back and listen? 2 weeks before the wedding, the house chose silence. Lila sat on the bed, spine straight, eyes rimmed red, and said we needed to talk. Translation, decision made. She couldn't go through with it. Her feelings weren't in it. A breaker flipped inside me. A room went dark. Everything got easier to see. I asked clean questions. Had something changed? She hesitated, then admitted it. Marco had resurfaced months ago, just to catch up. Coffee as friends. Messages that felt like oxygen. With him she felt alive. With me, safe. Alive versus safe. Like she'd discovered a law of nature, not a preference. I kept it even. Emotional or physical. The pause answered. I didn't chase details. Details are gasoline. She cried harder when I refused to perform. No begging, no bargaining for time, no emergency braces on a failing wall. I told her I heard her. We wouldn't get married. The sentence sat level. She called me calm like it was an insult, then pitched alternatives, postpone, scale down, therapy first. Braces again. I said we'd handle logistics in the morning. She could take the guest room. She walked past the gallery wall she curated for Instagram and shut the door. The house exhaled. She texted apologies from 10 feet away, weather systems in paragraph form, confusion, sorrow, justification, a last flick of blame. If only I were less scheduled, more romantic. Passion doesn't fear order. Lies do. She asked if I hated her. I don't waste hate. She asked for forgiveness. Forgiveness and contact are separate decisions. I took a quiet lap like a site inspection. Living room, binders open, swatches fanned, place cards stacked like promises. Kitchen, 2 glasses drying, lipstick on one rim. Hallway, a scuff where the ladder bit the paint. Under lamplight, the house felt honest, as if it had been waiting for permission to tell the truth. Back in our room, I opened the ring box. The hinge squeaked. Tiny scratches from the Arboretum night caught the light. Funny what you remember at the end. A squeak, a scratch. How light refuse is to care. I didn't call Josh. I didn't want outrage. I wanted clean steps. Reduce the area, reduce the pain. Narrow the footprint of this collapse. At 1, another long message from her. She needed space to feel. She needed mess. I set the phone face down. The wall clock kept impartial time. Houses talk, wood shifts, pipes breathe. It wasn't the noises that unsettled me. It was the new clarity. If she could torch a future this tidy 2 weeks before vows, she would have done it 2 months after. We were just early. I changed my alarm to painful o'clock. Vendors to call. Deposits to swallow. Accounts to unwind. The mortgage to cut or buy out. The house needed a new story without her. So did I. A memory clicked into place. The Seattle offer I'd shelved for her. It slid in like a beam that had waited in the wings. At 2, I carried my laptop to the dining table and began a list. Venue, caterer, photographer, florist, DJ, baker. Under that, bank, credit card, utilities, streaming. Under that, the house. The cursor blinked like a metronome for a different life. In the guest room, her phone kept lighting. In the kitchen, 2 glasses dried by themselves. On the dresser, a stack of names gathered dust. I typed 1 sentence to her and deleted it. Then another. Sent nothing. Sometimes the most precise cut is the one you don't make. By 3, the plan had bones. Dawn would give it muscle. Because when a load path fails, you don't argue with gravity, you redesign. If someone told you they felt alive somewhere else, would you chase them or start drawing exit lines? The cursor blinked like a metronome. I matched its tempo and started carving. Vendors first. I opened the wedding folder Lila had built like a museum and stripped it for parts. Venue, caterer, photographer, florist, DJ, baker. I noted deposit amounts, refund windows, penalties that smiled while they bit. Numbers don't apologize. They just sit there and tell you what pain costs. Next list, financial entanglements. Joint checking with a few thousand. A rewards card she loved for airline miles. Utilities braided through both names like cables. Electric, gas, water, internet. Streaming services split across our emails like confetti that won't vacuum up. Each item got a line, a contact, and an order of operations. Pull 1 plug at a time. Don't trip the whole grid. Then the big one. Our new house. The beautiful mistake. Mortgage balance around $288. Modest equity that would bruise on contact. Selling costs that would eat whatever was left if we rushed. I ran scenarios like load cases, sell together and fight over scraps, hold and bleed slowly, or buy her out fast, take control, and cut clean. The last option hurt the least in the long run. Pain with an end date is a gift. What would you pay to buy your peace back? I sketched a plan with timestamps. 6:30 a.m. Call the venue before they open phones to the public. 7 o'clock. Photographer, florist, DJ, cake. Keep my voice calm. Keep it factual. Eat the fees. 8 o'clock. Bank. Freeze the joint card. Transfer my half out. Schedule a closure. 9 o'clock. Utilities. Change of responsibility. Noon. Attorney. I'd need a buyout agreement ready by afternoon, signatures witnessed, notary stamped, deed updated, mortgage assumption pre-cleared. Chaos hates paperwork. Paperwork loves me. I drafted short scripts so emotion couldn't improvise. We are canceling. I understand the contract. Please confirm final charges by email. Copy, paste, repeat. I wasn't going to argue with policies written in stone. Stone doesn't blink. I added a rule at the top of the page. No debates about blame, love, therapy, or destiny. Logistics only. If she tried to drag me backward, I would step sideways and keep moving. It wasn't cruelty. It was traffic control. At the bottom of the document, I wrote one more heading, Seattle. I searched my inbox for Skyline Dynamics and found the thread I'd archived when I still believed in us. Senior role, sustainable high-rise team, relocation support, start date, flexible. The word flexed at me. I drafted a reply without sending it. Circumstances changed. Availability immediate. Portfolio attached. I attached it anyway. Hands steady. Heart steady enough. The laptop threw a soft blue across the dining table. In the guest room, her phone buzzed like a trapped fly, then went quiet, then buzzed again. I muted mine and kept building. Revenge wasn't on the menu. Replacement was. Replace noise with motion. Replace pleading with signatures. Replace a future made of hashtags with one made of steel and weather and sky. I opened the house spreadsheet and made a new tab, disposition plan. Aggressive list price. Staging minimal. Repairs only where buyers notice. I'd take the hit and sell fast. You can recover money. Time is gone forever. Pride is the most expensive line item. I zeroed it out. A small, mean part of me wanted to rename the wedding folder Lessons. I didn't. I archived it and watched it disappear into a tidy sidebar. Clean exits require clean bins. At 3, I brewed coffee I didn't need and stood at the window while the street slept. The house creaked the way old bones do when they settle. I didn't resent it. Structures move. That's why they stand. People move, too. The difference is choice. I printed a one-page summary and slid it under my phone. Morning would demand speed. I'd give her one conversation and a pen. We'd handle the estate of a future that never lived. She'd call me cold. Maybe I am. Cold steel holds more than warm wishes. I thought about Elaine's voice, nice, and filed it under completed. I thought about Marco and felt nothing useful. You can't out-dramatize a man who runs on chaos. You can only remove his audience. The plan had phases: sever, assume, relocate. No speeches. No last kisses. The final kindness would be clarity. I'd even offer her above her fair share to avoid a fight. Money is cheap compared to peace. Dawn scratched at the blinds. I closed the laptop and stacked the lists, square and flush. My chest felt empty in the best way. A room cleared for a new build. In the guest room, Lila shifted, then stilled. Somewhere, a truck coughed and moved on. At sunrise, I'd start the calls, book the attorney, and cut the ties in the order I'd drawn. If she wanted a performance, she'd get precision instead. Tell me, when the blueprint finally changes, do you cling to the sketch or pick up a new pencil? Dawn. Calls. Venue canceled. Then photographer, florist, DJ, baker. Calm voice, no bargaining. About 14 grand gone before coffee cooled. Money hurts. Clarity heals. Which would you choose? Lila hovered. Tried postpone. I slid a one-pager. Tasks, signatures, no philosophy. 8:55 a.m. Bank. Joint card frozen. Checking divided. Passwords changed in front of her. Boundary as architecture. Noon. Attorney. Neutral carpet. Firm pen. I offered above her share to end debate. She said it was too fast, then signed. Her phone flashed Marco's name. She tilted the screen away. Reflex is truer than words. Back home. Utilities reassigned. Subscriptions unwound. Wedding binders boxed as archive. Ring in the safe. Inventory, not memory. Then Seattle. I revived the Skyline Dynamics thread. Availability immediate. And 10 minutes later, I was on a 4 p.m. call. Senior role, sustainable tower, relocation fast. We aligned. When the line clicked off, the room felt one life larger. I listed the house at an aggressive price. Minimal staging, honest photos. 2 showings booked within half an hour. Speed isn't luck, it's alignment. In the kitchen, Lila asked if I was really doing this. Canceling, buying her out, moving. I told her I was solving the problem in front of me. She called me cold. Cold steel holds more than warm wishes. I kept that one to myself. Elaine left a tidy voicemail about talking like adults. I filed it under later. Confirmations stacked in my inbox like a neat funeral program. I cooked. She paced through grief's costumes. Anger, bargaining, blame. You're walking away from love, she said. I'm walking toward quiet, I answered. Agent texted, serious buyer wants first slot. I staged the house to look like it never argued. Hid the command center, straightened lines until the room sighed. In bed, I ran checklists, movers, mail, a 1-bedroom near work and a park. I blocked her number on laptop, left it visible on phone. Blocking manages spam, not closure. Josh texted, you good? I wrote, better than I expected. Not triumph. Oxygen. 3 weeks, if the house cooperates. Seattle on the horizon like clean steel in morning light. Tell me, would you trade money for peace, or keep the cash and carry the noise? The house sold fast. Papers signed, keys handed over. I ditched anything with her fingerprints and drove north. 3 weeks after the bed-edge confession, I unlocked a 1-bedroom in Capitol Hill and learned the sound of rain on honest windows. Seattle didn't care who I'd been. Perfect. Day 1 at Skyline. They handed me a mixed-use tower and a clock already ticking. Wind at 200 feet, transfer beams with attitude, coordination like traffic at rush hour. The switch flipped. Meetings. Models. RFIs stacked like bad Jenga. I spoke steel. Everyone understood. Nights were rough. I reached for my phone twice to text Lila about nothing. Coffee opinions, a dog at stand-up. Then remembered the audience left. So I built a frame. Work, then movement. A hiking group with goofy branding and serious trails. Mud, cedar, switchbacks. Lungs on fire, mind clean. Sleep came honest. At work, the tower stopped lying. We tuned the lateral system until it sang under wind. I fixed a diva transfer and red-tagged a slab edge hiding conflict. First big review. A developer called our scheme overbuilt. I walked him through comfort criteria his last team ignored. He stopped smiling. The lead muttered, good kill. I kept moving. One Tuesday, I finished the day and realized I hadn't thought of her once. Not even a ghost place setting. The absence felt like an open window. Air moved through. That's healing, quiet, unspectacular, real. I set rules with Josh. Only call if urgent. Otherwise we talk code, basketball, and his cursed sourdough. I quit doom scrolling her city. Boundaries are design constraints for feelings. Embrace them and the creaking stops. Sundays, I walked without headphones. Coffee, bookstore, a park where dogs negotiated treaties. The ring in a safe deposit box became inventory, not injury. There were lonely storms. I let them pass. Pain needs an echo. I gave it none. One evening, watching cranes write sentences across a gray sky, it clicked. I wasn't starting over. I was continuing, minus noise. You don't tear out a foundation because one room flooded. You seal, reroute, climb. A month in, my calendar was muscle, hikes, gym, design sprints, a profanity-laced thread with the project lead. I laughed again, small at first, then real. At 10:41 p.m., Josh texted, you're going to hear this anyway. Marco bailed. She's a mess. I watched the words blur, then sharpen. When the past knocks on a door you no longer have, do you answer or enjoy the silence? Josh's 10:41 p.m. text dropped like a pebble. Marco bailed. She's a mess. I typed back. Thanks. Only urgent updates. Silence obeyed for 2 days. Then the trickle. Mutuals implying time for herself. Ringless hands. Captions that lied louder than photos. I muted everyone. I wasn't starving curiosity. I was starving drama. Work kept me honest. The tower tightened. Wind models sang. Every solved conflict was one fewer place for grief to live. Her first message came from an unknown number. Apology to nostalgia to plea. No reply. Block. Second number. Misunderstanding. Block. Third. Coward. Block. Same weather, different clouds. I set 3 rules for myself. I don't reply. I don't read during weak hours, late nights, long days, or rain that gets inside your head. If something slips through, I read it once in a steady voice and delete it. No archives. No ghosts. Josh slipped once, missed deadlines, sick days, a client complaint. I said I didn't want updates. He meant it, then called again when it wasn't rumor, it was fired. Period. I didn't cheer. Pain shouldn't turn you mean, just specific. My specificity stayed the same. No contact. Numbers kept changing. Midnight poetry, all caps rage, a voice note I deleted unplayed. Sound is a shortcut to the ribs. I wasn't handing out shortcuts. A stranger DM that I'd ruined her life. Blocked with steady hands. Calm isn't cold. It's competent. Hiking helped. Switchbacks tell the truth. When a guy asked why I moved, I offered 2 words. Fresh start. That covered it. Josh again. She moved back with Elaine. I pictured a grown woman swallowed by a childhood room. I put the phone face down and watched the drywall turn abstract. No calls. Just breathing. Another number. Please, 1 conversation. I felt the old reflex. Be the beam, then let it pass. Block. A clean win at work. Our model finally aligned, and my phone lit. If you ever loved me, you'd help. That word, ever, tried to turn poetry into math. Love isn't a lifetime warranty. Contracts have terms. She defaulted. I wrote a sentence I never sent. You are not my responsibility. Then deleted it. Writing to ghosts is still a conversation. Days stretched. Gray learned 15 moods. The ring stayed a museum piece no one visits on weekdays. My floor stopped creaking. Then a local call from my old area code. I let it hit voicemail. Transcript arrived. Elaine, formal, careful, aiming for kind and landing on condescension. Said Lila wasn't eating or sleeping, and a decent man would help. The past had found a proxy, and proxies demand answers. Do you pick up that call, or teach your silence a spine? The voicemail transcript sat on my screen like a formal complaint. Elaine's tone tried for mercy and landed on duty. Lila wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating, wasn't herself. A decent man would help. The word decent arrived like a test I hadn't signed up to take. I called back because silence only works if you choose it, not if you hide in it. The line clicked, and I could hear a TV somewhere in her house, low and constant, like an 4 drip of noise. I let her talk first. She painted Lila in soft colors, fragile, overwhelmed, misled by a man who played with her heart. She said I was steady, and steady men don't abandon storms. I listened. The kettle hissed on my stove and turned itself off. When she ran out of breath, I spoke in the voice I use for bad data. Calm, specific, unhurried. I told her Lila didn't stumble into a mistake. She maintained a months-long emotional affair while we signed contracts and wrote place cards. I told her she ended the engagement 2 weeks before the vows, not 2 hours after. Consequences weren't a surprise guest. They were invited. Elaine tried to argue intent. I refused the frame. Intent doesn't hold a beam. Choices do. She shifted tactics. She said love means showing up when it's hardest. I agreed, and said I had shown up for years. That season ended the night Lila asked me to be a backup plan for another man's thrill. She said she knew I still cared. I told her I care that people get the help they need, and that none of that help will come from me. She called me cold. I said cold steel holds. Warm wishes don't. Silence, then a small, brittle sigh. She asked if we could meet, just once, for closure. I told her closure isn't a meeting. It's a boundary that finally learns its job. I wished her well and ended the call. The TV noise kept talking into the dial tone. 5 minutes later, my phone lit with a new number. Lila. The first lines raced. Nostalgia, blame, a highlight reel with the truth edited out. She said Marco used her, that she threw away the only real thing she had. She said if I ever loved her, I'd help her climb back. That word ever tried to turn poetry into math again. My rules held. I didn't reply. I didn't read it twice. I read it once, in a steady voice, and deleted it. No archives. No ghosts. Another number arrived at midnight, then another at 1. Bargaining turned to rage. Rage dissolved into apology. Apology curdled into accusation. She said I never fought for her. I looked around my quiet kitchen and understood the trick. She had rewritten the story so that loyalty meant self-betrayal and restraint meant cowardice. No thanks. I left the last number unblocked on purpose. A test, not for her, for me. If it rang, would my chest stay still? It did. That's how you know you're done. When noise returns and your pulse takes the night off. Work kept the air clean. We pushed our tower through another design gate and won a variance without losing comfort criteria. After the meeting, my project lead clapped my shoulder and said, "That's 2 in a row." Winds land softer when your life isn't a scoreboard. I walked back through the rain and could actually hear it. No soundtrack, no subtext, just water on asphalt, ordinary and complete. Elaine tried again the next day, a shorter message with sharper edges. Think of the woman you promised to protect. I typed a reply I would use once and only once. I wrote that I don't confuse compassion with access. I wrote that wishing Lila well does not mean walking back into a fire she chose to light. I wrote that this would be my final message on the subject. Then I sent it and muted the thread forever. Boundaries don't apologize, they operate. That night, I cleaned my condo the way you clear a site before a pour, surfaces bare, tools where they belong, nothing left that could trip you later. I took the ring from the safe deposit envelope, looked at it against the window light, and felt nothing dramatic. Just inventory. I set it back and locked the box. Some artifacts lose their voltage. You don't need a ritual. You need a drawer. A small grace arrived by email, travel request, client presentation in my old city, mid-quarter. 2 days on the ground, 1 heavy meeting, a final document to sign at the real estate attorney's office. The wording was innocent, but I heard the subtext, an audit of the past, conducted by a better version of me. I accepted the itinerary and closed the laptop. In bed, the phone vibrated once more. Lila again, from the number I hadn't blocked. She accused me of being heartless, of never loving her because I didn't fight. I felt the old reflex approach, the one that wants to explain the difference between dignity and performance. It passed. I let the message sit until the screen dimmed, then deleted it without ceremony. No lecture, no benediction, just the quiet sound of something you don't carry anymore hitting the ground and staying there. Would you call that cruelty, or finally telling the truth with your feet? I slept hard. In the morning, rain threaded the city and the cranes wrote slow sentences against a pale sky. My flight details pinged a reminder. Outbound next week, return same day. 1 meeting, 1 signature, 1 coffee before the airport if time allowed. I knew exactly which cafe sat between the attorney's office and the cab stand. The plane skimmed a wet sky and touched down like it was tired of arguments. I stepped into the old city and felt that familiar mix. Paper cup coffee, damp sidewalks, a memory trying to sell me a story I no longer bought. 1 meeting, 1 signature, then out. Simple. The client presentation came first. Conference room glass. Polite nods. I walked a table of executives through wind comfort, transfer behavior, and why cheap choices get expensive later. The numbers behaved. People followed. When it ended, the room did that soft exhale teams do when the grown-ups in the building say yes. I shook hands, packed the laptop, and checked the time. 2 hours to spare. The real estate attorney's office sat a few blocks away. Same elevator, same carpet that refuses to remember faces. I signed the last tax-related document from the house sale, a form that turned the past into a number and gave it a period. The notary stamped it and pushed it back with a small, mechanical smile. That was the practical end. The emotional end needed a walk. I aimed myself toward the cafe we once treated like a church. Sunday mornings there had been our pretend ritual, her with color-coded lists, me with a sketchbook and a quiet plan for the day. I told myself I was going for coffee and nothing more. You can visit a place without reopening a door, right? The bell over the cafe door still had that shape of sound, bright, then gone. Warm air, espresso, the low swarm of conversations that don't need you. I ordered a black coffee and waited, watching the barista move like a metronome with a heartbeat. It felt safe. It felt neutral. It felt like proof that a location is just geography unless you hand it meaning. Someone behind me said my name. I knew the voice before I turned. Thin, careful, like a glass about to be set down. Lila stood there with a look that couldn't decide between apology and permission. She was slimmer, a little faded at the edges, clothes trying for stylish and landing on tired. Her eyes scanned me fast, then settled. She asked if we could talk. Just a few minutes, she said, like time was a favor I could loan her. My pulse didn't jump. Good sign. I checked the wall clock and gave her a number. 10 minutes. I said it in the same tone I use for site restrictions. Firm, not dramatic. She nodded like a student getting a smaller extension than she wanted. We took a table by the window. I chose the chair facing the door. Old habit. She fidgeted with her sleeve and told me she was glad to see me. Not happy. Glad. Like relief after a fever breaks. She started to thank me for meeting her, then corrected herself, said I didn't know her this. That part, at least, was true. Up close, I could see how the last year had rearranged her. Less performance. More edges. A little tremor in the way she touched the cup. She smelled like a department store tester and rain soaked into cheap fabric. I remembered a different smell, salt air, sunscreen. The first summer we pretended time couldn't find us. Memory offered the real. I didn't press play. I reminded her we had 9 minutes. She tried to smile and missed. She said the past year had been a lesson delivered with a sledgehammer. Jobs fall. People lie. Promises expire when you don't honor them. She took the blame and then quickly, too quickly, slid some of it toward Marco, toward her friends, toward the culture of freedom. I let it float by. Blame is a lazy river. Step in and you're downstream before you know it. Outside, a bus hissed at the curb and moved on. Inside, a couple laughed too loudly at the counter. Ordinary life kept doing what it does when you're busy falling apart. I felt a small surge of gratitude for that. Machines humming, milk steaming, zero subtext. She asked how Seattle was. I gave her clean facts. New role, big project, hikes on weekends, a condo that stays quiet. She nodded like she was happy for me. Maybe she was. Maybe she wasn't. Her hands said she wasn't sleeping. The skin under her eyes said food had turned into a negotiation she kept losing. 8 minutes. She started to apologize again and stopped, like the words had run out of runway. Then she tried a different angle. She said the life we built was real and that she'd been stupid enough to set it on fire because someone promised her smoke would taste like air. That line sounded rehearsed. I ignored the poetry and heard the message. She wanted something from me. 7 minutes. She reached across the table like instinct, palm up, not touching, as if asking the air for permission. I didn't move. I watched the gesture land on wood and lose its voltage. She swallowed hard. Her eyes glassed. She whispered that she missed the peace of our house, the Sunday mornings, the way I made problems small. I stayed quiet. Peace with the wrong person is a ceasefire. It always breaks. 6 minutes. A part of me wanted to ask about Elaine, about the job, about what mess meant in her daily life. I didn't. Questions are doors, and doors are invitations. I wasn't hosting. She took a breath that sounded like she'd rehearsed it. Here it comes, I thought. The pitch. The redecorated history. The piece where she sells me a future depending on amnesia. 5 minutes. She asked if we could start over. There it was, simple, heavy, wrapped in a tone that pretended we were equals in the loss. She said we could rebuild what we had, better this time, more honest. She said Marco was a mistake, her friends were noise, and I was the one constant that made sense. I looked at the clock. For minutes. Her eyes searched my face for a crack, a sign of fight, a hint of rescue. She was good at reading rooms. I kept mine blank. Not cruel. Clean. I told her I'd answer, but I'd do it once, and I'd do it clearly. I said I wouldn't debate, and I wouldn't be pulled into a memory contest. She nodded. She didn't understand yet, but she would. 3 minutes. Would you give her hope to soften the landing? Or the truth so she finally stops falling? I wrapped my hands around the coffee, felt the heat, and spoke. I let her question sit. Start over. Rebuild. As if foundations forget. Clarity, not comfort. I told her what we had was real for the version of her that didn't test aliveness behind my back. When the missing piece arrived, the part that chooses chaos over promises, the structure failed. Not from lack of love, but from loads it was never designed to carry. She said pain changed her. I said I believed it, and that grading the new version wasn't my job. Compassion isn't access. You can wish someone well from the shore without wading back into their fire. Do you hate me? No. Hate is an open tab. I close accounts. If you'd fought, begged, made space for my mess. Mess isn't personality. It's a plan without math. I do math. She called me cold. I told her I feel plenty. For work that stretches me. Rain on new windows. Mountains that burn the lungs quiet. For her, nothing left to measure. That's not cruelty. That's the end of a contract. Her hand hovered over the table like a bridge without permits. I didn't cross it. I said this once, clearly, we don't rebuild, we archive. What we had becomes a paid-for lesson. Find help, just not from me. Find love, just not mine. You were my peace, she whispered. Peace with the wrong person is a ceasefire. It always breaks. Would you sign that treaty twice? I checked the clock. She asked me to think about it. I already had. Answers either brighten or go dark. Mine went dark months ago, and the outline of a better life appeared. I left cash under my cup, stood, and wished her the help she needs. She asked for a hug. I said no. We don't need a trophy photo for a game that ended. I gave a human nod and walked out. The bell rang bright and died. Cool air. No subtext. I felt my pulse settle where it belongs, low and useful. A newspaper skated along the curb, selling urgency I didn't own. I let it pass. The ride to the airport fit the day, quiet, exact. The driver asked about bridges. I talked about spans and wind. The city opened, cranes writing long sentences in the sky. A design stops lying when you stop pretending. At security, shoes, belt, laptop, ritual as precision, not penance. My phone buzzed. Variance approved. You were right about the damping. I smiled, small and sufficient. I texted Josh, ran into her. I'm good. He replied with a thumbs up and a dumpling. Fair. Boarding. People shuffled forward with private cargo under 23 kilos. We move. That's the job. As the plane climbed, the city simplified. Rivers to brushed steel, highways to pencil lines. Some problems aren't solved. They're outgrown. Would I change anything? Only the belief that planning prevents pain. It doesn't. It just gives you something solid to hold while you walk through it. We broke into clear air. Seattle waited below the clouds, patient and gray-bright. I closed my eyes and felt the full stop of a story that didn't deserve a sequel. Sometimes the cleanest revenge is no performance at all. I walked out and never looked back.